Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 48th ever episode of the Best Phone Plans Podcast. I'm Stetson.
And I'm Dennis.
And in this episode, we're talking about some exciting news with Republic Wireless, Mint Mobile's insane Black Friday deal, Cricket Wireless having a promo, T-Mobile hitting 4.95 gigabits per second, and how AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile are fighting SIM swaps, as well as a couple of other stories. And Dennis, before we get into it, as always, first off, love the beanie. I think it's a great look on you. Love that orange pop. And how you doing today?
You know, I'm always doing good, Stetson. The week has been very productive for me, or more productive for me at the new role. And we're getting ever so much closer to finals. Not this weekend, but next weekend, I'll be taking my finals for my master's course. So that's good. And also Thanksgiving's around the corner.
Oh, one of the best times of year. You are so right. And Dennis, speaking of Thanksgiving and being thankful, we got to thank our Patreon supporters, Alex, Breaking Data, Carol, and Richard. These are some of our top tier Patreon supporters. And yeah, let me know what you think of the banner. We're just testing that out. Either way, Dennis, I think we should dive right in. Where do you want to start? You know, should we knock out some MVNO news? Should we talk about the deals? What are you feeling right now?
Let's talk about since we talked about Thanksgiving and it's the holidays, why don't we talk about some of the best deals going on right now as we work our way in the Black Friday and the Christmas season?
Dude, remember when Black Friday was a day? Like, get this, a day?
I do. But with that being said, I want to start right out the gate with one of the best deals I think going on at the moment. And it's from our one of your personal favorite carriers, Mint Mobile.
Oh, man, Dennis, you got it. Mint Mobile, what are they doing? They are offering a buy 3, get 3 promo. What does this mean? It means when you buy 3 months of service, and Mint Mobile sells their plans in bulk, so you literally are signing up for 3 months as a new customer, you are now getting 3 extra months for completely free. So that means you're getting 6 months of service for the price of 3. The math comes out to $7.50 for the 4 gig plan, and the data renews monthly. So you're getting 4 gigs of data per month, $7.50 per month for 6 months. And the unlimited plan, which has 35 gigs of high-speed data, comes out to just $15 per month for 6 months of service. You are paying upfront, so it is important to know the 4 gig plan would be $45 upfront for 6 months, and the unlimited plan, that 35 gig plan, is $90 upfront for your 6 months of service. So I just did a full video on this. I'm super hyped about it. Dennis, are you thinking of picking this up? Like, you have T-Mobile. There's absolutely no reason for you to get this. Are you tempted at all?
I've done stupider things. Actually, no, in all sincerity, yes, I was debating. I lightly touched on it as like a thought that was in passing, not something I'm seriously considering, but thought about, because I would like to see how bad deprioritization would impact performance.
I think that is something I would love to test. And I'm just like, I don't know when I'm going to make the time. So we will see that, because I have some testing done for AT&T, but it's not about just going out and testing. It's also about aggregating the data points and figuring out how to present that, which is like one of the challenges in a video format. Like, if you're writing an article, I feel like it's a little bit easier to throw a spreadsheet out there and compare some of the results, but to bring it into a video format, I'd be curious.
Yeah.
And the challenge also is you kind of need a phone with the same modem too. So
that's one of the problems, but
yeah,
that's where the iPhone 12 would come in. But if I did do it, I'd probably do the 15 gigabyte plan. I personally don't think Mint Mobile's unlimited plan is actually a good plan.
That's so interesting. So it's funny you mentioned that. In my video where I explain all the details of the deal, how to get it, what happens after your 6 months, I actually recommend that people get the unlimited plan. Do you know why?
Because it's the best value from a dollar for dollar standpoint. I'm not sure.
That's a really good guess. The reason I recommended the unlimited plan, 2 things. One, it's the cheapest time to buy the unlimited plan. Like, this is the lowest price it's ever been. But more importantly, number 2 is it's after 3 months usually, but I think in this case it would be after 6 months. Mint actually sends you an email with your average data usage and recommends possibly a cheaper plan. So when I had it a while ago, it recommended the 4 gig plan, which is what I'm on now. So my thinking was, all right, here's a great opportunity to test out Mint Mobile, test out the T-Mobile network. After your 6 months, you'll get an email of literally the most affordable plan that you can switch to. So you're getting a good deal on the unlimited plan, and then you can switch to a more affordable plan for a longer term commitment if you feel Mint Mobile works well for you.
Do you know the reason why I don't like the unlimited plan?
Because it's not truly unlimited.
No, that's not my problem with it.
The video streaming.
That's one of the big problems with it. The video cap, but also the hotspot.
Yeah.
Hotspot's only 5 gigabytes, which kind of stinks. I mean, it's nice that it's there, but that combined with the video throttle makes it so that I wouldn't get true enjoyment and better have just 15 gigabytes and then buy the little data buckets if needed on a month where I need more.
Sure. I hear you on that. And yeah, it just depends like what you're looking for. I would almost say if you're on a data bucket plan, like you would rip through your data bucket if you were streaming in 4K.
You don't need to stream in 4K, but 720p or even 1080p is a lot better than 480p. And plus, it's not even. Plus, here's the other thing, Stetson. It's not even necessarily about the video resolution in and of itself. It's the fact that it's an actual hard throttle on the speed when you're watching video, which causes for a lackluster experience. I mean, with all the buffering and everything, right?
Yeah, if you are trying to like jump between different sections. So it's not for everyone, but I think now is one of the best times to try it out. Dennis, we have a second deal that actually surprised me, which is why I put it in here. Did you get a chance to take a look at what is going on right now?
Are you referring to the Republic Wireless or the?
So I'm talking about Cricket's deal and what they're doing.
Okay, so I mean, I read the docket, but I'll let you do the honors of explaining. Also, am I lagging on the screen?
You are lagging on the screen, yeah.
Okay,
that's not me, right? Like I'm smooth.
I think that's a StreamYard thing, to be honest. But all right, go ahead and hit us with the Cricket news.
Yeah, so Cricket, they're doing something cool. They are offering a triple data promotion at Walmart. What does this mean? It means normally Cricket has a terrible, one of the worst plans ever, $30 2 gig plan. But right now at Walmart, you can get it and it's triple the data. So it's 6 gigabytes. And they have tripled the data on their 10 gig plan. So it's now $40. And instead of 10 gigs, you're now getting 30 gigabytes of high speed data, which that's honestly a really good value.
Actually, Stetson, it's less. It'd be 35.
Wait, I'm seeing $30 in the promo, and it's triple the data for 10 gigs. So 3 times 10 is 30.
One line of data or one line.
Oh, you're talking about the price.
Yeah, the price. So one line from Cricket, no autopay is $40. With autopay and paperless billing discount, it'd be 35.
Boom. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah. Anywho, with that being said, that is tremendous. That is a very good option. In fact, I would say that's probably even arguably better than their unlimited plans in the sense that 30 gigabytes is effectively unlimited for most people.
Yep.
But you get to use that data however you please, i.e. if you want to use 30 gigs of hotspot, you can.
I actually think the hotspot is disabled on that plan.
No.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah, man, I'm so sorry. I know it was disabled, and I would say I have about 95% confidence it's still disabled. I had that plan in high school, way back when it was a 2.5 gig plan, Dennis. And crazy to think it's now a 30 gigabyte plan. But yeah, hotspot was disabled. The good news, though, you might be thinking, well, how long does this double data promo last? We were looking at Red Pockets deals on a previous live stream. Those were only for your first month. Dennis, I am happy to report with Cricket Wireless, you get the double data promotion for a full 12 months, a full year of service. And then the data goes back to the plan's regular allotment.
Good guy, Cricket. Okay.
Yeah.
And after that happens, you could just go to the normal unlimited plan if you need more.
Yep. Bump up to unlimited, switch carriers. You got so many flexible options, which I really appreciate. But yeah, I think those are the two deals I wanted to highlight. Of course, the deal switches on. Carriers have turned on the budget for their ad spend and the Black Friday holiday promo. So keep your eyes out, and we'll try and cover as best we can some of the high level best deals we think that you guys should be aware of. So the two for this video, Mint Mobile and Cricket Wireless. Check out those deals.
So Stetson.
So Dennis.
There was another thing that you mentioned in the news from Republic Wireless in the MVNO space. Do you want to touch on that real quick?
I would love to touch on this. So first, are you familiar with Republic Wireless, or how familiar are you with kind of who they are?
I've heard the name. I think I might have seen them in a Radio Shack whenever Radio Shack was still a thing. But outside of that, not uber familiar now.
Sure. So, what is going on? Well, Republic Wireless is an MVNO that was launched quite a long time ago at this point. And the idea was basically like Google Fi. Okay. So you pay, I think their rate is $20 a month for unlimited talk and text, and then $10 per gig of data. I'm actually feeling a little bit uncertain about that, but that's about what it is, something like that. It might be $15 for unlimited talk and text. Actually, I think that's what it is. I think it's $15 unlimited talk and text, and then $5 per gig of data. Either way, kind of this flexible pay per use kind of plan. If you don't use, data, you only pay for what you use, which is great. A little bit more expensive if you look at some of the data bucket plans out there, but you might be wondering what's going on. What happened to Republic Wireless? Why are they in the news? They were purchased by Dish, and Republic Wireless recently stopped accepting new customers because they're going through a complete overhaul. We saw this with Ting when Ting was acquired by Dish. It basically adopted the Boost Mobile plans, which Ting desperately needed. Now Ting's plans are significantly better. I'm expecting something similar to happen with Republic Wireless. And we actually have a leaked logo, and I'm editing this, so I will be able to throw in this logo and what it looks like. But yeah, it's kind of exciting, and we have some confirmed news. Here's what's happening. The Republic Wireless site is officially closed, and it's going to be closed for, let me pull up the dates, November 16th through December 1st, 2021. So a pretty big time. They're completely overhauling the website. What we know, there's going to be new plan options with additional features. I would expect something similar to what Boost Mobile is doing. Expanded unlimited data options. The first time, really, Republic Wireless getting unlimited data. We're getting 5G service, hopefully on the AT&T network. Bundle and multi-line discounts. Again, something Republic definitely and desperately needed. And customer service and support over the phone. And I'm wondering if they're going to be integrating their customer service with Ting at all with Republic. But that is the update, Dennis. Any reactions? I know I just kind of hit you with a wall of information there.
Yeah, I'm actually on their website right now.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's awesome having a co-host.
I know, right? Control. Thank you, StreamYard.
Oh, so I was right. It was $15 a month for the talking text, and then $5 per gig of data.
Right. And one thing I noticed is that it was up to 15 gigabytes, and it seems like all of their plans somewhere in around that $20 hemisphere, regardless of kind of what you pick. So
yeah,
definitely, they definitely needed an overhaul. That is for sure. And hopefully, I have faith that through the power of the mighty Ting and by the backing of Dish, that they will see some refreshment. Although honestly, I have an honest question.
Yeah.
Do you even think there's a point in keeping the brand alive? Like,
yeah, they actually seem to be doing pretty well. They've got some brand recognition. They think they've got a good audience. And, how do you grow a brand? I think part of it is kind of grassroots. Like, oh, I'm on Republic. Their plans get updated. Maybe those people, they meet with their family members over Thanksgiving. They say, hey, I'm on this cheap cell phone plan. Just kind of gets the word out. So I do think it's to Dish's benefit to keep the brand alive. And I also think it's to Republic's benefit and all customers of Republic to get those plans updated and refreshed to something more affordable that gives you more data and gives you those better options.
See, I'm of the opposite opinion here. I feel like that what Dish needs right now is not more flanker brands. I feel like Dish should almost be taking like a T-Mobile-esque approach in that, like, say Boost should be their Mint Mobile, right? Like, Boost is easily a more recognizable brand than Republic Wireless. Or if they want to start fresh, use someone like Ting, who doesn't have necessarily a negative connotation, and make that their big push brand. It has recognition and marketing. To have so many different small disparity brands for the sake of false choice, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense in my eyes. Like,
sure.
Like if we look at like Verizon, for example, right? Verizon has, Verizon postpaid, right? I feel like Straight Talk is going to be one of their major prepaid because that's a recognizable brand. And they got Visible, which is like their thing that no one really recognizes, but like that's their way of like targeting different audiences. AT&T is the kind of same thing, right? There's AT&T postpaid, there's AT&T prepaid, Cricket, and like that's like their way of like doing things. And then then T-Mobile has T-Mobile, Metro PCS, and then Mint Mobile would be their biggest MVNO that's recognizable, right? Like they don't.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would almost argue Dish right now, they've got Boost Mobile, their flagship brand with the most number of subscribers and your classic plans. Then they've got Ting, recognizable MVNO, known for good customer service and support. And then kind of this other carrier, Republic Wireless, coming in possibly with something different, more flexibility, pay per use. I don't know. Like you bring up a good point. They're essentially repackaging the same service, it seems like. The difference between Ting's plans and Boost Mobile's plans are almost not existent.
Actually, I was going to say the difference between Ting's plan and Republic Wireless's plans, they're the exact same thing, is what I was getting at. At least with Boost, there was some slight difference. But
yeah, well, I mean, Republic's getting a complete overhaul, so we don't really know what the plans are going to be and how they're going to approach it. What do you think would make sense? Like, would you like to see some of the bulk savings? It sounded like we're getting unlimited options and we're getting family discounts, but those are kind of what we already have to some degree.
I feel like my opinion's a little bit warped because I know this is going to sound harsh, but I don't care what this MVNO does because to me, they're never going to be an option where I go out of my way to be like, this is obviously the option I recommend. Like if they go out of their way to do so, like say bulk pricing, right?
Sure.
It's going to be hard for me to be like, why not pick Mint, right? Like Mint better customer, like Mint established good customer service, Ryan Reynolds company, right?
I think you're thinking of it as like a broader market scale, whereas I tend to think of it more as a network thing. Like you've got your bulk pricing on Mint on T-Mobile, and you've got your bulk pricing on Red Pocket for AT&T. And so, yeah, I would say like Republic Wireless could be, I'll use the bulk pricing as an example, but it could be the bulk pricing on the Dish network, which is, it's currently AT&T, but you kind of see where I'm going. Like they build up that brand, that kind of pricing structure and model, and so then they adapt it over.
That makes sense down the road when there is a Dish network. Right now, there's no Dish network. So that's what I'm getting at is like, this isn't the move that makes sense to me. Like what I would rather see from Dish is I would like to see them be like, here is Dish branded plans.
You're just ready for the postpaid plans. You're ready to strap your seatbelt in and go all out.
Right. Because like, I feel like that's going to be the area where Dish gets creative. Like I'm waiting to see what they do that's actually creative, right? Because the MVNO space, I don't know, what was it? Like over 500 different MVNOs exist. Feel like
there's definitely like 200, I think.
Point being is I feel like we kind of seen every sort of like flavor of like thing so far. Like
139 MVNOs.
Perfect. So yeah, like we've seen pay-per-use though, right? Like that's nothing new. We've seen I'll say tech companies that just so happen to sell cell phone service, i.e. US Mobile, Airlu, right? We've seen bulk pricing, the Costco model from Mint, Red Pocket, and even companies like Wing, or not Wing, excuse me, Boom Mobile was doing something like that. And it's all the same kind of things. Like it's not like it's the only MVNO that has done something that I was like, wow, that's really, really interesting. It would probably be Carlos, but he's not really an MVNO. Like,
yeah, he's doing something. He's different. Like Carlos's advantage is really the plan features, whereas I think a lot of MVNOs with the agreements they have in place, they have to get their selling point to be a little bit different. Like I think Ting, when they launched, it was the affordable pay-per-use plans and the awesome customer service. I think with US Mobile, it's the beautiful user interface, the online account dashboard, the flexibility and the value they provide. Mint Mobile, the bulk pricing model while still getting that premium experience. And yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. And I feel like you're right. Dish is in this weird spot where, you know, what's the difference between Ting and Boost Mobile? Really, I think it's just brand recognition.
Right. And the customer service aspect, which my point being is like, if Ting was already doing it good, why not just convert the customers to Ting is what I'm getting at. Like,
yeah.
why
Well,
reinvent the wheel?
I will. You have a great point, and it could make sense to consolidate. I'll give a counterpoint to this where Republic Wireless as an MVNO itself was trying to grow their customers, gain brand awareness. So there's already a bunch of interviews and articles about them. And I feel like if people are doing searches on Google, they could stumble across Republic Wireless, and that could get more customers to some degree. So it's kind of like, as opposed to killing all of that organic traffic and trying to divert it into a new brand, I think keeping the brand around with decent options is kind of it's like a neutral position. Like, would you rather them remove it or have them update the plans to be better? I think I would rather have them update the plans to be better. Like, existing customers are going to be happy. There's no hassle of switching providers. And I think for Dish, it kind of brings in any organic traffic of customers who may have discovered Republic Wireless through, reading an article or something like that.
So real quick, there's two things I want to say. One is I did some quick Google searches, look at reviews for brands, just so I wasn't making stuff up in my head. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But the second thing I wanted to say was if we were living in Dennis's ideal world, right? I personally would rather see us get to the point where it's like, okay, you got the 4 MNOs. So Dish, T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, there's your 4. You'll have 4 of, we'll call them their flanker brands. So your Cricket, your Metro,
Visible, and Boost Mobile.
Sure. And then, so that's 8. And then we have 12 MVNOs total. So 20 brands total. I would like to see that level of consolidation because then it's recognized.
Aren't you usually like pro-consumer, like more choice for the people, more options, more flexibility?
Let me explain my thought here real quick, okay? So then that way it's like obviously it kind of be eliminating our job a little bit, but it would decomplicate things. Yeah. And each respective company would have more resources allocated to themselves in theory to be able to do more things that they wouldn't otherwise do from like a negotiating buyer power standpoint. Now, as far as your argument about the consumers, I am being for the consumers because here's the thing, right? If we'll take Mint Mobile, for example, right? Mint has Mint Mobile and Ultra Mobile. They are literally just rebranded packages of the same thing. When you call in, you literally get routed through the same support, right?
It's true. It's true.
The facade of choice. It's not real choice. There's not competition on the pricing. There's not really competition on the features. It's the facade of choice. It's like when you go to Walmart and there's Chef Boyardee and Great Value raviolis, both of which are actually packaged and branded by the same company. It just so happens that sometimes Great Value raviolis might be a little bit cheaper because Walmart does a special deal where it's $1 per can, or maybe Chef Boyardee does the same thing, but it's the same food inside, right? It's just the facade of choice.
I would say there are some nuanced differences, right? Where Ultra Mobile has the included free international calling, right? Like I feel like the MVNOs are striving to differentiate themselves. And so you do get kind of different experiences across the board where Red Pocket is cheap. It gets the job done. It includes international calling. We got Tello with their approach of the flexible plans. There's different models for how and when you can switch plans and change your data amounts. So I like the different options. Like it's fun seeing the different characters emerge of these MVNOs. I think it would be like, yes, the major operators would have more resources if they were consolidated into, brands that could get bigger marketing budgets. But
well, it's not even just about the marketing budget. It's about a host of other factors, including the part where the MVNO has to actually negotiate with the carrier. If you have more subscribers, you can possibly negotiate better rates. But look, and I didn't mean to go down so deep into this topic, but what I'm trying to get at here is like, yes, there's minute differences, but what I find end up happening overall for the most part is we end up seeing every MVNO always, but what's it lacking type of thing, right? Like,
sure.
By that I mean, let's take Red Pocket for example. Okay, so Red Pocket, one of the things that we notice is that there's disparities in the plan quality across the different networks, right?
Sure.
Now,
yeah.
Now, if Red Pocket wanted to go out one day and make a whole spin-off brand just targeted around bulk discount pricing, even though I know Red Pocket does it, but let's just say Red Pocket made a separate spin-off brand just for specifically bulk pricing, right?
Yeah.
And they managed to get some of the included features on there, and that was like their claim to fame. Whereas normal Red Pocket's claim to fame is the fact that you get like all these different network choices. Well, they could have just gave you the bulk pricing all under the Red Pocket branding if that's something that people wanted and called it a day, right? And the same with like Mint Mobile. You were talking about Ultra Mobile's example of the included international calls or whatever. Mint Mobile could have a plan where included international calls happens, and Mint Mobile also could go out of their way and just have a month-by-month pricing of their plans. Like,
sure. Well, how about like, how do you think having more choices would impact consumers? Like when you go to the store, and this is like human psychology, if you're given an option of 4 jams, it's much easier for someone to pick their favorite flavor of jam and go with that than it is to have an option of 20 jams. People sometimes not even make a decision because they won't know if they want like the raspberry or the grape or whatever 20 other variations they have. So I almost feel like even though what you're saying makes sense, I feel like having the distinct brands can help target the audience for that MVNO. Like, for example, if Mint Mobile were to offer plans on AT&T, A, that would be incredible, but B, all of a sudden it would create more choice and more confusion for people because they'd be saying, oh, do I want to sign up on the pink network or the blue network? Right. And to your point, funny enough, Red Pocket actually did exactly what you said. They do have a spin-off brand targeting bulk pricing, and that is Unreal Mobile.
So your psychology argument is great because it's actually in support of what I'm getting at. You just said it.
No, but you're misunderstanding. You're wanting like 8 or 4 MVNOs with like 30 different plans.
No, 12 MVNOs.
12 MVNOs with like 30 different plans. I'm promoting, I think the branding of the carriers helps distinguish them, and then you can pick a plan within that category.
I don't think you need 30 different plans. That's also not what I'm arguing. Like I'm saying these facades of all these different minute details and like data buckets for plans, for example, is like silly. What I'm best example of this that I can think of, okay, would be US Mobile, right? Yeah. US Mobile kind of does the gambit already, right? They have the pay-per-use model.
It's true.
They have the pre-made bundle models.
It's true.
They have unlimited.
True. And
then lastly, they have the incredible shared data bucket model with the line thing that we talked about. So they have 4 different options. And yes, there's a bunch of different myriads of choice as far as the data goes. But overall, it all kind of boils down to basically the same stuff, with the only quote unquote complicated parts coming down to these 3 things. 1, in regards to ludicrous speeds and hotspot. 2, being your network choice. And 3, just determining if you need unlimited or not, which also, for the most part, thanks to how the pricing works out, if you're doing anything family related, unlimited just makes the most sense. So you can do it in a way that's not complicated. And the only thing that US Mobile isn't doing is bulk pricing, which from my standpoint, bulk pricing, like it's not necessarily
shoulder shrug. Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily the thing that I would want to personally do, especially since US Mobile is already able to achieve Mint Mobile-esque pricing without the need of doing bulk pricing for the most part. It's close enough.
It's very close. I was actually in my video today, someone actually commented on like the regulatory fee, and it's a $14 regulatory fee on a $90 plan, which is pretty high, it seems like, but it's because the service is over 6 months. But that is still an extra $2.34 a month. And we were giving US Mobile a hard time for their $2 service fee on other plans. So in a sense, Mint Mobile's not that far off sometimes taxes and fees.
So what I'm getting at, synopsis here, what I'm getting at is that if a company wants to try a new feature to try to differentiate themselves, I don't think it necessarily requires making a whole new company just to try out the one new feature, is what I'm getting at.
Sure, I hear you on that. I guess my perception right now is that I think an MVNO can be stronger if it focuses on one core strength as opposed to trying to do everything. Because I think when you have one core strength, it helps your narrative, it helps you define your target audience, it helps create the target audience and demographic for the marketing budget and have more of an impact. Whereas I think if you go too broad, sometimes if you get people at the start of your funnel looking at what options you have at US Mobile, maybe they get confused. Like, oh man, am I a custom plan? Do I want family plan? Do I need a data? Like, how much data do I need? I don't know. So that's That's my perspective.
Sorry to keep beating this horse, but while I agree with you that allowing you to do this allows you to fill in a niche's needs in the same way like consumer cellular is targeted at elderly people, typically speaking.
Yeah.
We're talking about something that is pretty universal, like, i.e., what I'm getting at here is this. If your plan includes unlimited calling, even if it's use sets and you don't use it, you don't care, and it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, that's like a status quo thing, right? And if it's for the elderly person that wants that plan, then they're gonna get it, right? Same thing with texting. The only thing it really comes down to is data, and we kind of, in my opinion, are living in a world where I feel like data buckets are going to go the way of the dodo bird at some point, and we'll see more plans that look more along the lines of like a visible, where we have the different flavors of speed on unlimited data and not necessarily an arbitrary data bucket in and of itself. And also, as far as that goes, like when you make these brands that are targeted at specifically one thing, one niche, you are sacrificing other important parts of the experience. Like, you know, I do a lot of praise of Los Mobile. Let me call it something about Los Mobile, right? Los Mobile has some of the best plans in the biz, period, right? But one area where they're clearly lacking, and Carlos, when you listen to this, I hope you don't get too mad, is the customer service aspect, right? Yes, there is Discord. Yes, it is great. But that is not the normal interaction experience that most people would want. And even in your video, you correctly talked about how billing, right? The app, the experience on the billing, it's not a US Mobile-esque experience, right? That'll come with time, whatever. Point being is, Carlos is satisfying a niche, sure. Would it be better if Carlos had more resources and had a more robust billing system in place and just had the whole experience? Yes, because you want those things from like there are core things that you want from any company that don't require reinventing the wheel. And just because you're fulfilling one niche doesn't mean you should necessarily be ignoring the other things, because it's all part of that overarching experience when you walk away from the brand. And on that note, I want to transition to what I quickly Google searched. So when we were talking about brands, I did a quick Google search looking up reviews about Republic Wireless and Ting in this scenario. Stetson, take a guess. What do you think people are saying about Republic Wireless on like Yelp and sites like reviews.org, which our good friend Craig, had on it, works on it? What do you think people are saying?
That's a great question. I mean, the thing with reviews is oftentimes you get the negative Nancy's on there. It's like a vocal minority of bad experiences. So I bet you're going to have a couple people complaining. I think it's probably going to be reasonably positive. People talking about the pay per use, the flexibility of the plan. And yeah, I don't know. I genuinely have a pretty positive perception of Republic Wireless, even without using them. So I'm getting like kind of positive vibes. How am I accurate? Am I wrong here? What's going on?
Very wrong. Well, yeah, very wrong. Overall, putting it generously, and this includes reviews from actual reviewers, Republic Wireless sits somewhere around the 2.5, 3-star area. So very medium at best. And that's with me being generous and ignoring some of the ones where it's lower. But a lot of different like complaints about various things. I won't get into the specific gripes, but point being is that is the general sentiment with some of the more recent reviews on, say, Yelp, for example, all being 1 stars. If we're talking about the recent ones, and the most recent 5-star review being back in like 2020. So, and I can even share the link of like, so the Yelp one, for example, to you here. But that's Republic Wireless. That's their current most recent brand like reputation, right? Now, what do you think Ting looks like?
Ting's gonna turn that around. They're at least 4 stars or like 3.9. Definitely positive reviews talking about customer service agents helping out some mom or grandma getting the service active, calling when they had a problem and getting it fixed. I'm feeling definitely positive sentiment on that.
Yeah, Ting is basically 9 out of 10s, 4 out of 5s, 4.7 out of 5s. Very like well liked, and all the reviews that are talking about the well likeness too are up till recent as well. Like walking away with a positive experience. And then going back to what I said about pricing, I'm going to share my actual screen again here. Going back to what I said about pricing, I'm on actually Ting's website right now, right?
Yeah.
This goes back to what I was kind of talking about with pricing, right? So we looked at Republic Wireless little plans. Look, boom, Flex. This is the better version of Republic Wireless's plan right here.
That is
right
true.
Here. This right here, more data than what they were charging for $25. And then all this stuff, just better pricing overall, very clean, very simple. It's good stuff, right? There's more reviews overall. Like here's this is Ting's website, but like even down here, 9 out of 10 from Review Technica, right? We always refer to Reviews Technica. I don't know how well you can see that, but
not very well. It's pretty small, Dennis.
Here. Reviews Technica, where's the actual rating at?
I think I saw a rating towards the top. It was like maybe a 9 out of 10, I want to say.
Yeah, it was a 9 out. Here we are. See, look, Reviews Technica, we value this site, or at least I look at it a lot. I feel like you do too sometimes, right? 9 out of 10. This is the professional reviewer, and there's comments down below that all like kind of agree with the sentiment, right? Same thing with like, well, that's just another page of that. But
it sounds like point being Ting, well more ranked.
There
oh my God, now I can see everything. Well more ranked.
2,105 reviews, 4.7 like rating overall of all those reviews, right?
Yeah,
like that's pretty good, right? But anywho, let's end this topic. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but as far as like what is the point of keeping the brand, I'm not seeing it based off the current reputation, and I feel like it's more of an uphill battle to change people's reputation of a brand that they have a negative feeling on, which is the same reason why I said I didn't necessarily understand why Dish kept the Boost Mobile branding, since fresh starts, right?
Sure, I hear you on that.
But anywho, let's change gears. Let's step away from the MVNO space for a second and change on to one of Dennis's topics. Let's talk about what AT&T is doing.
What is AT&T doing, Dennis?
So AT&T in select limited areas has been trialing out faster than gigabit services. They have been starting to offer 2 gig symmetrical and 5 gigabit symmetrical speeds.
Dang. Is that some of the fastest commercially available?
This is residential, my man.
Residential? Dang.
Yeah, it was actually shared on Reddit.
Where
I found it. And it was shared not on an AT&T subreddit, but Fios Reddit.
Oh, that's spicy. Dennis, want me to pull this up right now?
I was going to have you to, but you took too long, so I pulled it up instead.
What if I take over? Boom. I can zoom in. That's why.
Okay. I'll stop sharing mine. But yeah, so $180 a month gets you 5 gigabit symmetrical, which sounds like a lot of money until you remember that Comcast charges $300 for 3 gig symmetrical.
Yeah, dang. And the fact that you can get 2 gig speed for 110, that's outstanding.
And it's truly symmetrical. It's not like Google Fiber where they're giving you 2 gig down, 1 gig up. It's 2 gig symmetrical.
And in fact, it's 5 gig symmetrical. This is insane, Dennis.
Yes.
I also love how they're throwing in HBO Max. They're throwing HBO Max into literally everything they can right now.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest about 2 things, though. One is that I am happy that this is doing it because in the future, there's going to be use cases for people out there, I'm sure. But on the second point of honesty, there's no reason for anybody to sign up for these plans, in my personal opinion. None whatsoever. Gigabit fast enough. Like there's not really websites that can take advantage of fast than gig. Although AT&T does have peering agreements, so maybe 2 gig, maybe, but I really can't justify it. With that,
180 is also just astronomically expensive.
It's really not, actually, to be honest. For that speed, it's really
for
not.
that speed, fine, it's not. But for like an average consumer's home internet bill, I think that's absolutely insane.
Stetson, it's not that long ago that I was paying like, I told you about this back in the day, right? When I had Armstrong and I was paying.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I'm coming from more.
You're coming from the world where you lived in a nice, healthy, productive, competitive environment.
Suburban market. We had Fios. It was like $70-$80 a month. Like anything that starts to get over 100, I feel is expensive.
Oh man, you should pay Comcast no promo pricing, man. You're over $100 for gig with them. It's like I want to say it's like 115, 120.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, this is really cool. And then when I was reading through the comments, someone was mentioning that Fios is supposedly going to be doing the same thing. They're not allowed to share it, but this is Reddit, but yeah, that person, the Jedi, he's a mod of the Reddit, so there might be some credibility to him. Like he's actually a proper mod. for Fios.
Sure. Huh. Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like this was actually cross-posted. So originally posted on AT&T and then cross-posted in the Fios subreddit.
Well, I didn't necessarily catch that. I found it originally on the Fios Reddit.
So,
but this is pretty cool stuff. I thought it was interesting to talk about. Although, can I just say something since we're talking about the topic of ISPs? Do you want to know what really grinds my freaking gears?
What grinds your gears?
The fact that the small details get overlooked. So Fios, right? If Fios really is going to start offering these fast speeds, which great, that means they're investing. I'm happy. Why can't they offer IPv6 support, which has been something that's been around since 2000 and I feel like it's been widespread since 2013, right?
Well, yeah, what is that? So we have IPv4, right? So is IPv6 just like the next iteration of that?
So yeah, I mean so IPv4 is like the cornerstone of the internet. It's been around for like ever, right? But there's inherent issues with IPv4. One of them simply being the amount of IP addresses that can be assigned. Basically, I'm going to give a really dumbed down metaphor for what an IP address is. Think of it like your house address. Yeah. It's how things get delivered to you, right?
Yeah. And it's like the way things are pointed and guided on the internet. Like you point to an IP address to go to your destination. And if you run out of addresses, then you basically run out of possible content and possible destinations.
Right. And one of the problems with IPv4 is that there is way more devices than was originally accounted for because it's only like written in 32 bits. So like that's a problem. And the thing that got around that to like help things out is something called NAT, which basically how NAT works is like, say you have a physical house address, but then you have like different, like say apartments in that same physical address. So you share it. NAT basically gives you like apartment A, apartment B.
It added on a chunk at the end.
Basically, you have your public IP facing address, which is just one, and then you have your localized, like the 192 dot whatever. Yeah, that like makes the apartments in your room, which is fine. However, that inherently adds some overhead and some complexities and challenges. IPv6 resolves that problem by giving you like trillions upon trillions of IP addresses that shouldn't be a problem anymore. And there's other optimizations that go along with that specification. And I find it hilarious that Fios doesn't support it because Comcast and other cable operators have been supporting IPv6 since the deployment of DOCSIS 3.0, which is why I said the year 2013 is when it became widespread, because DOCSIS 3.0 is...
Dude, that is ridiculous. What is Fios doing? Verizon got to get on that.
So yeah, cable ops doing something ahead. Very small, very simple, but there's also security issues too that go with natting because it interrupts certain... I won't get super nerdy, but long story short, F me Fios, please support IPv6. And also, please...
I would like that, Dennis. I would like a Dennis special ranting on IPv4, what IPv6 is, why Fios needs it. The fans want it.
And plus, too, here's one other thing that's worth bearing in mind. But as we continue to march into the future of time, there are certain websites and applications that are IPv6 only because there's no backwards compatibility. So, i.e., if you don't have IPv6 routing, you just straight up won't be able to load up the website.
Oh my goodness. That seems like a little bit of a design flaw.
I mean, it wasn't a problem like 10 years ago. But like as we move forward,
Verizon is making it a problem.
Like as we move forward, it is becoming a problem. And it also, bigger problem than even that is the freaking peering agreements, man. The peering agreements are so bad. Like if you even look at the comments in this Reddit, people talk about how the peering agreements are like not even like, it's like not even funny. Like, if you scroll down, there's so many. Oh, I'm sorry. I clicked on the AT&T one.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
No. I want you to be on Fios. I was just scrolling. But if you scroll down, Pixel of Moral Decay, truth, IPv6 is years late and peering on Verizon network is laughably bad, right? Any name, I want one. Completely agree. Be nice if I didn't get random pings in the hundreds during my workday too, but I could manage. The lack of IPv6 before at this point is just ridiculous. Like it's a small little sub thread within the thread, but like there are people commenting about this. It is a real issue. And as he talked about the ping spikes, this is a real problem too because of how traffic gets routed. Like Verizon is a tier 1 provider and they're using these tier 2 like crappy. It just blows my mind. They're not spending the money, and it makes me feel bad when I have to be like, wow, good guy cable company actually spending money on something that is so stupid. Meanwhile, cable operators are lacking on their upstream, which is also incredibly stupid. It used to be. I'm going to get into a little side tangent real quick. When I talk about peering agreements, it used to be back in the day, all ISPs played nicely with each other. They all just worked together because they understood the internet's all about being connected. There's going to be times we get to offload traffic onto the other's network. It was fine. It was free. Somewhere along the way, though, and I feel like Comcast kind of spearheaded this, but it might have been somebody else. People started charging for this data. Like it wasn't no longer about like tit for tat. Like the smaller guy would charge the bigger guy, like, hey, you're putting way more traffic on, or excuse me, the bigger guy would charge the smaller guy, like, hey, you're putting way more traffic on my network than I'm putting over your network. I'm going to charge you like a toll fee, right? I'm going to make some money off this. I'm going to double dip. I'm going to make money off of you, Stetson, who's paying for internet, and I'm going to make money off of Netflix, who's trying to offer you the good of service. Like somewhere in time that started happening. And then that's when things got really complicated. And then combined with that, we end up getting the removal of net neutrality, which people don't realize like how important that was. And it didn't necessarily solve this problem. Like this all started happening under net neutrality, but because net neutrality is gone, we ran into this situation where now we start getting like these, I don't want to call them fast lanes because it's not really the right thing to say, but like you get better peering agreements. Like for example, a few years back, do you remember when Netflix worked out a deal with Comcast to put it on all their equipment on like their localized head ends?
Yeah.
This way it wouldn't have to go over the wider web. It's not really a fast lane. This is something that's like efficient from a networking standpoint, but in and of itself, it inherently gives Netflix an advantage over all other streaming services because they get to stay on the internal network. They have the legit best possible connection possible where they don't have to worry about these terrible pairing agreements, right? Look, it just sucks. It's a bad situation. This is good news, but the other thing is talk about bad news. I really wish I had municipal options like you, Stetson.
I will bring in a comment actually from Zach, who's tuning in live. Thank you, Zach. Now, most sites that are IPv6 can be accessed from IPv4 devices through 6-to-4 translation. There's a technical term that Zach is forgetting right now, but it is up to the ISP to implement. It sounds like Verizon Fios may have not yet implemented that.
If this was a development, I'm not super familiar with it, to be perfectly frank. But just like anything that gets converted, like, for example, the way Mac OS with ARM is converting x86 to ARM, there's always issues. This defeats the purpose of what IPv6 is supposed to do, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's much better to have that direct route. Dennis, I have a surprise piece of news, not in the document, but very similar and tangentially related to this, and it's from Starlink. So,
ooh, okay.
Yeah, just a couple of notes here. I was watching Talos of Tech do a video on this. There are some updates. We got a new dish from Starlink. It is now a square face, is what it looks like. Kind of looks like a smaller antenna up there. And this is hopefully cheaper for Starlink to manufacture and provide better reception. A couple of design refinements in the dish. It looks like there's no longer an intermediary sort of box that you have to plug everything into. Looks like it's a little bit more streamlined. You can actually unplug the cable that plugs into the back of the dish before you couldn't. So subtle improvements there. It's officially out of beta. It no longer says it's a beta service, and they have added a speed expectation between 100 megabits per second and 200 megabits per second with latency as low as 20 milliseconds in most locations. And apparently people have been reporting over 200 megabits per second. Starlink is doing one of the rare things where they are under promising and over delivering, which is 100% what they should be doing. And people have even seen, I think I've seen speeds up to 300 megabits per second. So, you know, it's not the best internet option. I don't want to hype this up too much, but if you're interested in Starlink, they have been making improvements to their network and their system.
Yeah, so this is good. I'm glad they're getting out of beta. And I've went on record before, and I've actually gotten into some heated debates about this. People have these unrealistic expectations for what Starlink is.
Yeah.
Starlink is a great product. I'm glad that it exists. It serves a specific purpose, and it's going to have enterprise purposes as well down the road. But for the love of God, for my rural American friends, I really hope this doesn't end up being their only option, because there is two key areas where this is not great. One is pricing. It's very expensive.
It's expensive.
Two is simply a speed thing, right? Like, there's only so many customers you can have in a geographic region before you're like at capacity, right? It doesn't matter how many cell sites end up being in a place, because at any given time, you're going to end up in a situation where one cell site is covering one particular location in orbit, right? There's only so much bandwidth. There's only so much spectrum. We talk about this in the wireless space, and the same thing happens with satellite, right? I really hope, for the love of God, that we see from this infrastructure bill, wireless providers expand further out into rural America, offer that beautiful N41 with proper backhaul. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but Verizon or AT&T offering some millimeter wave sites are straight up just running fiber, right?
Yeah. Like I'm actually with you, Dennis. I think fixed wireless may actually be a better solution for a lot of people than Starlink, but I am really happy to see it as an option. And I think it's kind of creating this healthy competition in the market space for these people living in more rural and more remote locations that previously didn't have options. Now you're starting to get companies trying to get the dollar, and T-Mobile's plan at $50 a month. Like, in my mind, it's a no-brainer to go with T-Mobile over Starlink, at least in my market, where I'd be getting very similar performance on both, and T-Mobile's half the price with no upfront equipment charges.
Yeah, I just want to highlight a comment from Zachary here real quick, because he's hitting the nail right on the head. He brings up Viasat and HughesNet, which have terrible reputations for being slow and expensive, right? This Starlink can be Viasat and HughesNet very easily. Like, that's the thing with satellite. Like, yes, it's closer. Yes, it has lots of capacity, and it's going to have more capacity as the orbital system gets fleshed out in the next 10 or so years. But like right now, it would be very easy to saturate. And I still, even though it's leaving quote unquote beta, I don't think it's actually out of beta. And one other thing that's really important to talk about that people don't realize, because they think outer space is like this infinite thing, but there's only so much space in this little Goldilocks zone, so to speak, where Starlink wants to put their satellites, right?
Sure.
And also something worth mentioning that no one talks about, although there's been countless reports talking about it, if you get into the whole scientific side of things, is it only takes one accident to make it so that Starlink can never launch another satellite up in the air again. I.e., if one little fragment of debris, one little satellite doesn't get properly disposed and it breaks, and it just goes around and shatters the other things, you're going to have space junk that's going to prevent you from putting any other satellites in that orbit. So, like, I actually have very major concerns about how limited, regulated, like, Starlink is when it comes to...
They are following all the regulatory requirements right now. Like, they've designed the satellites to burn up in the atmosphere and decommission them, and they're being safe when they're deploying them. I mean, I almost feel like with the test satellite missile that was just launched by Russia, like, that's almost a bigger problem, I feel like, than the satellites that are in low Earth orbit trying to provide internet access to people around the world.
Also, Zachary's touching on another point. Other companies want to do it. Like, what I'm getting at here is I don't really want private companies to be the ones controlling these launches. I would rather it be NASA, one point, than having various private companies, because it leaves more room to go wrong. Like, also worth mentioning that, yes, they're following current regulations, but laws are slow to catch up with modern day needs. We have the oldest Congress, I think, out of most governments trying to make laws to regulate something this important. And as much as I know this is going to sound really odd coming from Dennis, who's always tech enthusiast forward, but I almost want to see Starlink kind of slow their brakes a little bit, especially because I feel like there are other enhancements that need to be considered with these satellites that are lighting up into the air, because it's an expensive endeavor anyway, for the long-term future of what Starlink wants to be able to do. I.e., if that means making more efficient use of some weird technology, like, say, having those satellites talk to each other in the air, which I know was something that was talked about to limit the amount of base stations that need to put down on the Earth. Yeah,
they're working on that. I think there's a new version of the satellites that are being developed and will be deployed soon with lasers to get faster communications. And it's actually faster to communicate in the vacuum of space, even over greater distances, than through the wiring under the ocean.
Right. I know that was in tech and development, right? What I'm saying is like, instead of launching more of these older satellites in the air that are going to have to just be decommed and wasted anyway and become junk on the Earth, develop this more optimized tech that might be able to last a little bit longer, is what I'm getting at. And also put more testing into fail safes. If for some reason, say, like, the rockets that are meant to shoot it out of orbit down into Earth fail, what's the fail safe in that scenario, right? Have countermeasures that aren't being accounted for, because it just takes one mistake, like I said, to ruin everything for satellites.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, I think brings us up another good point. Like, Starlink is being run basically by SpaceX. Like, SpaceX is providing the service of putting the satellites into space, and so yeah, they're definitely being really careful. And I feel a lot of people involved with space and SpaceX and NASA are all extremely mindful of the very point you just made. So I think they're trying to take into consideration all the precautions necessary to make this a safe endeavor.
I guess long story short, and this comes down to some of my leanings, but I just have a distrust natively of private companies in general.
Okay.
So my scope of things, I'm not saying the US government is the God's given answer to everything, but like, I just have a mistrust of private companies to somehow try to optimize something from a cost standpoint that inherently like removes the security functionality, because it's not that uncommon for stuff like that to happen, right?
Yeah.
But
sure.
Let's get off that. Let's stick on the good news. Good Starlink. They're out of beta. Awesome, interesting design. Hope it gets into more people's hands. Hope cost comes down, as we talked about.
Yeah, it is definitely expensive.
Let's pivot once more to something that you talked about that's been exciting in the home internet space as well, which is that T-Mobile apparently managed to get 4.95 gigabit per second speed on 5G standalone.
That is correct, Dennis. This is crazy. So what they did is they used a combination of 2.5 gigahertz and millimeter wave spectrum to reach 4.95 gigabits per second on its commercial standalone 5G network. So it was using the world's first new radio dual connectivity, abbreviated as NR, new radio, DC, and they got 4.95 gigabits per second. And the site was located in Southern California, utilizing 100 megahertz of 2.5 gigahertz spectrum and 800 megahertz of millimeter wave, which is honestly really hard to come by on T-Mobile. But there you go. Ericsson was the one who provided the network equipment, and the call was conducted on a test device. It's weird they say it was a call, but I'm guessing they mean speed test. So there you go.
Can I say something?
You actually may not say. Yeah, yes, of course you may say something, Dennis. Please, I welcome your thoughts.
I know this is impressive for T-Mobile, but it's not actually that impressive in my personal opinion, because Verizon has been able to get these types of speeds just doing normal millimeter wave by itself.
This is also true. I think probably what's impressive is that they're aggregating the mid-band and millimeter wave in their new radio dual connectivity. But yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, Verizon's been getting way faster speeds or fast speeds on their standalone or their just millimeter wave stuff. I think, honestly, what we want to see from T-Mobile, and I think we talked about it, is backhaul. Like, we just want backhaul. Like, please upgrade your backhaul so we get faster sites and better
backhaul
experiences.
And for them to actually follow through on this layer cake that they talked about, I have not seen a single millimeter wave site.
Yeah, I don't know.
Aside from the ones that
like
Sneed tested, but
how important is millimeter wave? I would like to see it in crowded stadiums and events, but ultimately, I would rather just see way more N41 and way like the backhaul upgrades. Like,
millimeter wave
is awesome.
Millimeter wave is, it's not millimeter wave that's specifically important. It's the need for small cells to fill in the areas that macros simply just can't go due to permitting and regulations in various markets, right?
Could you do a small cell of N41?
Yes, they could do small cells of LT even. But where I'm going with this is that, one, if you're going to deploy a small cell, you might as well make it a millimeter wave small cell. And two, is that despite how impressive N41 is, the fact simply remains that as more people get on 5G capable devices, N41 will get saturated. You will not, I promise you, you will not see 600, 700 megabits per second speeds if everybody and their mother is connecting to one N41 cell site in a cluster. It's going to be reduced down more in line, maybe 100 megabits per second, somewhere in that. Still good.
That's still awesome. Like, that's what I want to see. That's the point. Like, you're increasing capacity and speeds.
Still great, right? But where I'm going with this is it's definitely within the realm of what a good LTE network performance looks like, is what I'm getting at with this, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be possible to, or more easy to oversaturate an LTE network too? Like,
not really. Honestly, if you had the same amount of spectrum, 100 megahertz of N41 LTE, 100 megahertz of spectrum on N41, the performance difference at best might be 15%.
Sure, because the spectrum is the same.
Like 15 to 20%. Because the fact of the matter is that LTE, especially LTE Advanced, already had a lot of technologies that are being utilized currently on the 5G side of things. We had 4x4 MIMO, and we had massive MIMO with Sprint when they were deploying their band 41 over LTE. You know, there's the beamforming. There's lots of tech that was there. And, you know, I get questions a lot on the Discord asking me, like, you know, MNOs hyping up gigabit 5G, X, Y, and Z. And I always have to explain, like, there's more to 5G than just capacity. Like, there's other things that are being touched on, like the network splicing and other things. Yeah. That being said, though, the whole point of 5G is to be able to handle our future needs, not just like mobile consumption, but future needs from a latency standpoint, handle other optimizations that come along, like the virtualized, you know, network slicing and all that other good stuff. But capacity definitely is a raw part of that. It's eking out as much capacity as possible from that limited amount of data. And if we want to see that happening, and we want to see a capacitive network, small cells have to happen. You have to offload traffic off of the macros. Macros are your coverage. Capacity comes from small cells. And for what helps, it helps a lot, but it doesn't even compare in terms of capacity that a millimeter wave small cell can have. So that's my point.
Gotcha. It's a very fair point.
But on the topic of that, I'm gonna throw something out on left field.
I feel like we gotta hit Zach's comments. He's just like dropping knowledge bombs.
Okay, go ahead.
Couple quick bullet points. Thank you, Zach, for your comments. When T-Mobile puts multi-gig backhaul on site, N41 100 megahertz does 1.2 gigabits per second. So I feel like that definitely can be improved with backhaul, which is what I want to see. And N41 has way more capacity than LTE, so a great upgrade for macros. So it is a good, or Zach's articulating, that's a good improvement for macro sites. Though, Dennis, you were kind of saying, like, if you have 100 megahertz on either, it sounds like it wouldn't really matter necessarily.
Like LT might get 800 and N41 might get 1.2, and that's in ideal scenarios, right? Like,
sure. But it is kind of about having the capacity. And the question is, like, are you, like, how frequently you're getting 100 megahertz of LTE spectrum, right? Like, you have to carry or aggregate different bands together. And I feel like it's much less likely, whereas with N41, suddenly that becomes a very real opportunity.
Right.
And Zach is agreeing with you. T-Mobile definitely needs more millimeter wave. But in most areas, they actually only have 400 megahertz, where Verizon has 800 to 1600 megahertz. So thank you, Zach, for those excellent thoughts. Dennis, it sounded like you wanted to steer us into one more topic here.
Well, this is a continuation of T-Mobile talk real quick. I know you didn't listen to the conference, but maybe at least saw articles. Did you see that T-Mobile was able to test out using N71 as an anchor for their N41 to improve N41 coverage by roughly 30%?
Whoa, that is crazy. How does that work? Like, what does it mean to have an anchor band? So what does it mean if I'm using N71 as an anchor? Do you know, or is it just like hard to...
I know what it is. I'm just trying to think of the dumbed down version of explaining it.
Yeah. So what is an anchor band?
So when your phone connects to a cell site,
yeah,
it needs to basically tell the cell site, like, I am here, I exist.
Right. So that can help with, like, beamforming and making sure the signal reaches that phone.
Well, low band, because it reaches better, and because phones are low power by their nature, allows for the phone to use that as, like, its upstream to communicate, like, I am here, I am online.
Got it.
It is the anchor that is just establishing a talkative connection to the tower. N41 is the capacity band, and because of improvements that came from 5G with N71, it can reach even further. And same thing happens on N41 on the standalone versus using NSA and using something like a band 66 as your anchor band, which has way less range.
Got it. Yeah. So it sounds like you're carrier aggregating, like you're using the N71 as the anchor and then aggregating that with the N41.
Yes, and Zachary, thank you. I tried my best. If anybody didn't understand what I said, I'm sorry if that explanation wasn't perfect, but you can always become a member of the Patreon and ask me more detailed questions where I'll type it out to you in the Discord. That's what we'll do. Anywho, yeah, so did you hear about that? Because that was part of Neville Ray's like conference call.
No, that's awesome. Dude, it sounds like T-Mobile, I mean, the hack was really bad, but it sounds like they're doing some awesome stuff network-wise right now.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the conference call. I couldn't find it online. And Zach, if you have a link to it, please put a link to it because I would love to actually find the full conference call. But I read a lot from like Fierce Wireless and stuff about it. That wasn't the only thing that was talked about. T-Mobile was also saying by next year they should be able to cover roughly 308 million pop for N41.
Wow, I think they're at 200 million right now. So it sounds like that's going to be a pretty substantial upgrade. Like they are steamrolling this out very quickly.
Yeah, and again, I didn't get to watch the full thing, but I was surprised by T-Mobile actually being honest about something. Neville Ray actually came out and said that his network was weaker than the competitors at the moment. But he was saying by 2023, that network discrepancy should go away because of the fact of like the Sprint keep sites and other things like that. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on if you think T-Mobile can actually finally remove the disparity of network quality between them and the big two.
I think they definitely can. I mean, what does it come down to? It comes down to two things: having the spectrum and having not only the macro sites as you were talking about, but also the small cell sites. And I think T-Mobile can execute on that. Like they have the capacity. All they need to do is build out the cell sites that they need to increase the coverage, increase the capacity. And I think with the technological improvements they're making with their 5G network and with standalone 5G and the newer devices that they're putting in their consumers' hands, I think they totally have the possibility of really narrowing that discrepancy between the networks and achieving network parity and providing a much better experience for T-Mobile customers.
Gotcha. I had a feeling you would say that, which is why I let you go first.
You have a different opinion. Yeah. What do you think? What's the Dennis spicy take on this?
Here's my take. Do I think it's possible for T-Mobile to close the coverage gap? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to do it with their current strategy? Absolutely not. They would need to spend a lot more money in order to achieve those timelines. And the reason why I say that is because AT&T and Verizon aren't slowing down their expenditure, right? Like, it's not like they're just going to stop with their current deployment in the same way they didn't stop 3 years ago whenever T-Mobile caught up to the network quality of 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, Verizon has $10 billion allocated just to C-band deployment for capacity, but Verizon has also still actively been scooping up regional players like Bluegrass and stuff like that to expand their rural footprint in a native network to get off of roaming. AT&T has been aggressively expanding because of the deals with the FirstNet contracts, right? They're not going to stop just expanding their footprint.
So you got us, T-Mobile. We're going to stop now.
So while I think T-Mobile might be able to, I think it's very likely T-Mobile's network quality will be on par with current day Verizon and AT&T, I don't necessarily think it's going to be on par with future day Verizon and AT&T outside of the possibility from a capacity standpoint because they have such a large lead on their N41 deployment. But even that, I feel like is something that will very rapidly lose with time because it's not like Verizon is just sitting on their hands as they're sitting on C-band. Like they are actively putting the equipment up and just waiting to flip switches, right? So
yeah, that's T-Mobile's banking on the airline industry just delaying C-band deployment inevitably. No,
that's my thought on that. And also, one other important thing I want to say is that T-Mobile's still behind in the most slow and expensive part of actually matching up with these networks. And that goes back to the small cells that I talked about and the backhaul upgrades. Backhaul upgrades are slow and expensive. It's just a matter of fact. It is slow and expensive. And small cells are slow and expensive because small cells, you have to put in like 1,000 different permits with the city so you can start lighting up stuff. And you're going to need fiber RAN to each and every single one of those small cells. Who has been aggressively deploying small cells? Stetson.
Verizon.
And Stetson, my city isn't even an ultra wideband market, and I'm getting ultra wideband in the middle of 376, right? Your city, I believe, is a 5G market, and you've seen
smokes.
how much coverage Verizon has at this point, and they are not slowing down. And then
it's actually concerning. Like,
and then AT&T, who is hard to find 5G on,
it's very hard.
Does have small cells. Remember how you asked me, does it have to be millimeter wave? AT&T most definitely has small cells on the LT band. I've connected to their LAA and band 30 and different things like that. There was one right next to my apartment.
Wow.
T-Mobile has zero small cells that I'm aware of in my market.
Wow. Yeah, I guess we'd have to check on like Cell Mapper or something, but knowing you, Dennis, you're probably right.
Like, it's one of those situations. So, yeah, you claim you want network parity. You can't have network parity if you don't have small cells, because like I mentioned before, Pittsburgh isn't going to let you put a macro cell site literally in the middle of downtown. It's just not happening. Like, like there are spots in this tough terrain that only small cells can reach to fill in your coverage, and to add capacity that N41 simply can't resolve for you. Like, it's just a matter of fact. So do I think it will happen matching today's network quality? Sure. Do I think they'll match future Verizon and AT&T? Most definitely not, especially when they're talking about decreasing their capex over the coming years anyway. So the math doesn't line up.
Sure. Yeah, I hear you on that. I'm optimistic. I like being optimistic. We'll see where it goes.
But I know we're getting a little bit long in the tooth. Let's finish it up by touching on the last topic that you had. And this goes to the security incidents, since you brought that up. The whole cellular industry as a whole fighting the SIM swap attacks. So Stetson, tell me a little bit about what you found here.
Yeah. So basically, SIM swaps are they're a big issue. They're a real threat, a real problem. And you might be wondering, what is a SIM swap attack? And it's basically where someone who is the bad guy wants to get your phone number. Why do they want your phone number? For one thing, the two-factor authentication texts that your bank sends you, your credit card company sends you, your other bank that you forgot about sends you, your, I don't know, whatever two-factor authentication you're using, all of those apps and services, particularly the banks, are sending them to your phone number. So they want your phone number so they can log into your account and do some nefarious sorts of activities. So it's a problem. And with the T-Mobile data breach, it's even a bigger problem. Not because people's phone numbers are out or things like that, but because the information that a criminal might need to initiate a SIM swap is suddenly more available, like your address or other pieces of information to verify your account. Those are potentially out there. So basically, the FCC is working on helping carriers like crack down on this and really improve the security of customers' lines so that the phone numbers are not swapped out. So what was found is there was a study done that was by, I'm trying to find it in the article, Princeton University. So they actually contacted customer service representatives from Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And in all 30 cases, so that's 100% success rate right there. In all 30 cases, we're able to successfully move phone numbers to new SIM cards. Yikes. Yikes. That's a big red flag. So the SIM swap attack, someone gets your phone number, the risk, they get into your bank account, pretend to be you, you can have your identity stolen. How do you protect yourself, and what are the carriers doing to protect you? Well, AT&T lists some things here, and so does Verizon and T-Mobile. I thought it was honestly funny. I mean, Dennis, like, what would you implement to for carriers? Like, or should we cover like what they're doing now and what you think they should be doing?
Let's cover what they're doing now, and then I'll talk about what I think best practices are and the simplest ways to sell them.
I think you got some great ideas. So AT&T, basically what they're doing is they're having their retail employees no longer just look at your ID. Instead, they may scan it using technology that looks for indicators of authenticity or lack thereof. It sounds like AT&T is also using a data analytics model for risk scoring postpaid transactions. is this transaction authentic? What is the likelihood of this being a scam attempt? And then if the model thinks it might be an issue, escalating that to get additional information before completing that transaction. And also sending SMS alerts to let customers know of unauthorized SIM swap or port out transactions. I just want to point out such notification. So AT&T sending a text alert does not stop the transaction or the port out, but just lets the customer know about it. So I don't know, for AT&T,
which also worth mentioning that if the port out already happened, the text is just going to go to the
to the person. I'm a bad guy. Oh yeah, I totally cool. I just ported this person's number. Of course, thank you AT&T for the heads up. So I don't know if this is all AT&T is doing or just what they elected to showcase in this article from light reading, but those sound pretty bad to me. I mean, I went into the AT&T store and they definitely ID'd me, but it wasn't like they weren't scanning it. Like that wasn't, I feel like if maybe I had a fake ID of myself, I could have gotten away with it. I don't know. I feel like that sounds like it could use some improvements, especially it's model based. Like what if the model isn't trained right? Like what if it misses something? What's the accuracy of that? Either way, moving on to Verizon, they are encouraging customers to download and set up the My Verizon app to enable the push notification based authentication. I really like that because typically, like in order to sign into your Verizon account, you need to enter a code texted to your device. And so basically, in order to get the app, you have to have your phone and get the text. So I think that is really good. And then it's using the on-device security measures such as Face ID, fingerprint readers, and so forth to log into the app. And they're also, I think they also added a setting in their account to prevent unauthorized SIM card changes. Like there's literally a setting you can turn on that says like block SIM swap attempts, which is pretty cool. T-Mobile, they're using the 6 to 15 digit PIN. And I remember like whenever I call, they typically required a PIN. Sometimes they would text me as well. And they're using multi-factor authentication for getting onto the device and using the My T-Mobile app. So yeah, I think that's kind of what they have. I kind of skimmed over a little of the others, but Dennis, what are your thoughts here from taking a look at these?
Sure. So, all right. First off, one thing that is fairly simple that every one of them should be doing is two-factor authentication. But by that I mean,
what do you mean? So you want them to send me a text to my phone?
Let me kind of finish here. So every single one of them should be two-factor authentication. However, the two-factor authentication should not be in the form of an SMS text because there's inherent problems with SMS texting. It should be done through a proper authenticating app. And that's how it should be done. Like you should be required to download an authenticating app to have it done. That way it's time-based. Since we live in an unrealistic world, like a world where that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
The alternative would be opt-in two-factor authentication, with the opt-in part being through the My Verizon app, since I'm assuming you have to set that up anyway to pay your bills.
Yeah.
You just have it baked right into the app as a push notification. And it's opt-in. It's not opt-out. It's automatically done. Secondarily,
I think that was something I liked about Verizon is they were using the app. So you need your phone to sign up for the app, and then you're approving things through the app. So I think that's
the problem is customers can choose to turn it off. I'm saying it's not allowed. It's not a turn off thing. It's not a set this up. It is you are set up. Period. Like there's no ifs, ands, or ors about it. Secondarily, a lot of carriers will have you set up a PIN to verify yourself over the phone, and that same PIN number will be your transfer PIN. That is the wrong way to go about it.
They need separate PINs.
Yes, you should have a PIN that the customer makes to verify themselves over the phone, if you so want. However, I even think that's a bad thing. I think that should just be a sent out text where they read it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? Yeah.
But regardless, they need two separate PINs. One that is for that. Another one that is a one-time generated PIN for the transfer PIN that they use at the time of porting out their number. They should also add, I need to take a step back real quick. Stetson, are you familiar with the 3 types of authentication real quick? I don't know if you ever took an RSA course in your life, but are you familiar
So my understanding is there's two-factor authentication. there's multi-factor authentication, and there's a third type. But I could be completely wrong because I'm not 100% sure.
All right. So basically, the general ways of authentication is, and this is the general sentence here. It's something you know, something you have, something you are. All right. So something you know would be like your password that you make, right? That's been the go-to for forever. Something you have would be, if we were to use if we were going to use the example of you going into the house, it would be like you having your car keys. It's a physical thing. Or if it was a bank, having your debit card, right? It's something you have.
Okay. So it's like a key that is given to us for that thing.
Right. So the key in this case would be, if we were using a two-factor authentication app, that would be your one-time generated token with the 6-digit number that you're reading off.
Okay. So that's my key to my Verizon account.
Right. And something you are is literally something physical. Your eye, your thumb, your saliva, something about you that can't easily be
replicated.
Well, yeah, it literally can't be replicated. So that's fingerprints, facials, eyes, that kind of stuff for identity verification, right? I lean a couple different ways on it, but I feel like all carriers could also have the option that is opt-in for people to do these multiple layers of extra security if there's someone that is a high-risk target for being victim of something like this. Maybe it's a celebrity, for example, right? They'd be a high-risk target. And by that, what they could do is, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a thumbprint, although, because I get how people are with that kind of privatized data, but you can do multiple layers of the multi-layer like authentication. For example, have a thing on the account where the person has to go in store only to do SIM swaps. So they have to sign into their account with their password. They have to do the two-factor authentication thing, and they have to present, say, their driver's license where it is scanned, that is required before the port can happen. Like that's one way to go about it. Basically, there's a lot of ways to go about it. The simplest would just be starting with two-factor authentication, which all the carriers should be doing opt-in by default. And like, that's really simple stuff. However, I don't want to put all of the onus just on the carriers, because this is an industry-wide problem. And I think that one of the bigger problems too is that the carriers don't have a way to communicate with each other, and there's not a set guideline as a set standard to follow as far as security. So the carriers end up doing separate things, right? Like when you port out from Verizon, you need that transfer pin. Whereas with AT&T, the transfer pin is your 4-digit number that AT&T randomly give you on day one, right?
Yeah,
that's a problem, right? MVNOs, the reason, one of the big reasons why I don't like MVNOs is a lot of times your transfer pin is your phone number.
It is. It's actually usually your account number is your phone number, and your transfer pin is like the last 4 digits or like 000. It's varied over the years. I think it's getting better, but the point there are some instances where it could be considered less secure.
Like the point is, like, your account number is your phone number, and then the transfer pin will be the last 4 digits of that phone number. Like, it's something where I can, like, in the same way I can look up like what is my default IP address on Netgear router.
Yeah. If
you have certain MVNOs and I want to be a nefarious actor, all I have to do is look up what is your account number on so-and-so network. And if it's your phone number, and I know your phone number because that's very publicly accessible, and I know your transfer pin is the last 4 digits, well, I just figured out everything. And plus, if I know your phone number, I can very easily find you online to know your name, and probably easily find where your address is because you probably put it on Facebook or have a picture where it's been photo tagged, right? Like, me being a nefarious actor, it wouldn't be hard for me to get that kind of simple information, which is why there needs to be stuff that is like not obvious, and there needs to be stuff that happens preventatively before any further actions happen, instead of some alert text after the fact like, hey, your number's been ported, right?
Yeah.
So that are my thoughts. I went over a lot there. What are your thoughts? I just talked a lot. Do you have any bullet hole points that you didn't like about what I said?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think bottom line is what I'm hearing. You want to get multi-factor authentication set up day one. Like, that seems like the easiest method to help alleviate some of this, where you need your password to sign in. You're getting, you're using an app for the authentication, whether it is a dedicated My Verizon authenticator app or whatever. And I think that'll really help with the security and keeping people's phone numbers safe. Or, as you mentioned, having that opt-in, very essential for providing that blanket security. Or just having like a toggle that I think some carriers are starting to introduce, where it's like block SIM swapping and then require you to go in store with your ID, with your phone to really make sure everything is verified. And I think it's kind of like finding that balance where it kind of begs the question, like, well, what if you forget your password? Like, how do you reset your password? How do you keep accounts secure while still accounting for human error? And ultimately, I think, like, if you have your device and your phone number, you should be able to, like, reset your account. Because
resetting your password could be sent as a text, and also worth mentioning, it can be resent to the email that's on file, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, like, once everything's set up, you just want to, like, lock it down. And
now, look, I'm not saying there can't be issues. That's where having good customer service in place happens. However, there was two other things that you just made me think of because of that. One other big thing is that we really need to get away from using the last four of social as the way to authenticate, since there's been so many data breaches and like stuff like date of birth. And also, I've said this before, but the weakest link in any security process is the human. Remove the human out of the equation as much as possible. And by that, I mean, a lot of these policies don't get followed because sales reps at the stores can override stuff. Like, all they care about is making the sale. If it gets in the way, it gets in the way. Like, they're not going to help out the old person, right?
Yeah.
You need to remove the ability for overrides to happen by these salespeople. Like, there should be a dedicated team, specifically like tenured. In fact, excuse me for being this way, but no outsourced employees. It has to be internal employees that handle this security stuff, right? Who follow all the regulations, and they're the only ones who, if for some reason maybe your phone breaks or whatever, that you can't get the text, you can't do whatever it is, they're the only ones that can help you out with resolving that issue, right? It needs to be a very small, very well-trained amount of people that are hearing the security stuff. Basically, I want the same kind of security that you would give to a Jeff Bezos managing his stock portfolio, okay? That's what I want from the carriers. Is that unrealistic? Maybe. Can it be done? It sure as hell can, because I'll tell you right now, my company, when it comes to the level of security that my company does, I was actually jaw smacked in comparison to how my old company, when it came to with security policies goes. Like, I go through a lot, dude. There is lots of two-factor. I have two-factor authentication to get into my VPN, and it's done through this RSA token that's on my predisposed laptop. There's all kinds of other extra layers of security because of the sensitive information I'm handling for the large. I got to be careful about how much I say because I don't want to give it too much details, but I'm working with large enterprises. So there is a lot of security and local regulations that I have to follow. And I promise you, for like the first week of training, it was just me reading about all the security procedures.
Oh my gosh.
It's boring. It's not exciting, but you gotta hammer that kind of stuff in because you're the weakest link when it comes to security policies. And phone numbers are no different. To me, a phone number has, in the same way a social security number was never meant to be used the way it is today, I feel like phone numbers have become the new social security number. They were not designed to be a layer of security, but we live in a world where banks, for some reason, use them as two-factor authentication, and they're very, very needed for so many different things that we can't afford to allow this type of activity to happen because it causes true financial hardship for people, and it can lead to other issues with like identity theft even, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. So it is something that is being worked on, and hopefully it is improved. For what it's worth, the FCC has developed a CPNI, customer proprietary network information and number porting rules that can be updated to help prevent SIM swapping and port out fraud. So hopefully we see improvements in this space. That is all I have for news. Dennis, anything else you want to mention for this show, or should we kind of close things out here?
I'm happy to start rounding it out, but I do want to quickly thank anybody that's made it all the way to the end. To Zach, who was part of the #2Live crew. You are an absolute champ. Thank you for posting such helpful information. It really came in clutch. For anybody that's part of the #rewatch crew, make sure you're smashing that like button. It means a lot to us. We're on a mission to try to get to over 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you could share this video even with one of your close friends, maybe give them a little timestamp on one of the interesting parts that you really liked. Leave a comment even too, what you really enjoyed. If you want to see a standardized topic, maybe you want us to bring back Devil's Advocate, because I'd love to hear what you want to say on that front. And also take advantage of the Patreon, guys. It has been getting quite lit. The Discord's been popping. We got more perks than ever before with the discounts. I want to see more names on this spinning wheel down here so I could properly thank you. And
yeah, I gotta check those, make sure they're updated. We get everyone.
And Stetson's been making some great extra content behind the scenes as well with his blooper reels and everything else. So I want to see more faces there. But with that said, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Stetson.
And I'll see y'all on Thursday. Although for the rewatch crew, you'll be watching this on Friday.
So it'll be yesterday. We were live. Yes. You'll see us on Thursday because we're live every Thursday on the Best Phone Plans channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it.
All right. Peace.
Peace.